Now, President Trump's economy continues to sputter as unemployment has started to rise in key states following some planned layoffs from very large companies that we've been hearing about all year. Now, these companies benefited from Trump's gigantic tax cuts for the wealthy. Now, Trump, of course, is basically running on how supposedly strong this economy actually is. But as I've laid out in previous video segments, we're basically on a sugar high, right? And so that sugar high is, of course, starting to fade out, and the economy continues to sit on what I like to call a house of cards. And that house of cards is starting to fall apart. Now, according to new employment numbers that came out last week, over the last year, unemployment rates have increased in many of the areas that Donald Trump did very well in when it came to 2016. Now, these states included Mississippi, Arizona, North Carolina, Indiana, South Carolina, Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska. Now, this is according to numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, these states, as I said, went for Donald Trump in 2016, and to be fair, a lot of them still probably will. But interestingly enough, his approval ratings in these states are really, really bad. In fact, more people in Arizona and North Carolina disapprove of President Trump's job performance than approve, according to a recent Morning Consult poll. Not only that, but Trump, of course, narrowly won those two states, won by a margin of 3.6% in North Carolina and 3.5% in Arizona. Now, it does get better for Donald Trump in some of these other states, but not by all that much. In Indiana, Nebraska, and Kansas, Trump's net approval ratings are in the low single digits. That's a disaster. Super disastrous. Those states, of course, have a combined 22 electoral votes. Now, in some of the other states, he actually does a lot better. For one, he actually won by very large margins, 19% in Indiana, 25% in Nebraska, and 20.5% in Kansas. Now, this is not a predictor that Donald Trump is going to lose these states. Again, you can see he won by wide margins. And then again, he was running against a super unpopular person, Hillary Clinton. But okay. Now, depending on who runs on the Democratic ticket, those margins could end up being much closer, and maybe in states like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania could lead to Trump losing those states. And again, those three states voted for Barack Obama in 2012, but switched over to Donald Trump in 2016. And those three states together allowed Trump to win the Electoral College. And just as a note, you're going to want to watch these states. They have seen an increase in unemployment. So, look, this is the Rust Belt. Jobs are a big factor in these states, especially manufacturing jobs. Well, we just saw a bunch of layoffs from some of the big car manufacturers, GM, especially massive layoffs despite getting the massive amount of tax cuts. Well, that's not going to play well here. So they're not doing better than before. It turns out that right now we're not winning with Donald Trump. And all of us pretty much know why, or at least we should, because Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell, they got together, the rest of the Republicans, and they gave everything to the rich. They gave the money, of course, these corporations, gave money to their shareholders, and also pumped up their own stock values. According to executives, none of that money was supposed to go for raising wages. No, why? What? Wait, now Republicans tell us that, no, if you give the rich corporations more money in the form of tax cuts, they're going to use that money to raise wages and boost productivity and reinvest in their company, right? That's not what they did. And the shareholders, basically what happens is, according to some executives that I believe they spoke to CNBC, basically said the shareholders don't want this to go to wages. They want it to go back to them. Because if we give money for wages, that's less money we get. So, no, we're incentivized. The company structure itself is incentivized not to give wages. not to increase wages. And so, look, the only times that we did see a raising of wages, for example, when it came to Walmart, or not Walmart, when it came to Amazon, it's because of public pressure. Pressure from Alexander Ocasio-Cortez, pressure from Bernie Sanders, pressure from progressives. That's the only thing that actually changes wages right now. Giving them more and more tax breaks does not. Look, trickle-down economics, it only serves the executives. Never trickles down. Their glass just ends up getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And now, this year, we had over $1 trillion in stock buybacks. Now, that inflates the markets and creates a bubble. Now, what happens when you have a bubble? Bubbles burst. Not only that, but rich people, they've kind of run out of things to buy, which is disastrous considering our economy runs on consumption. So if all the wealth is sitting at the top, then what is everybody doing? How can everybody continue to keep up this economy when they don't have any money themselves? We need people to buy things so that the people who make the things still have a job so that they can also buy things. Now, if you go into the macro scale and look at it, it's kind of a ridiculous model because here you have infinite growth, right? Infinite growth is not a sustainable model, environmentally or otherwise. And we do need to have a plan to change that model. But right now, what we're doing is not working for that model or for any other model. And we need to change to a better system, a system of fairness. Now, right now, we'll never do that under Trump, Republicans, or corporate Democrats. But we need people in there, in office, in Congress, in the presidency, who are willing to change this system and go towards a system that is actually fair, just, and equitable. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.